Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. The Bible tells one big story of redemption, and we want to spend 5 minutes every day journeying through the Bible from start to finish and exploring how all of it points to Jesus.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. My name is Alexa, and today we continue our study of the book of Psalms by looking at Psalms 81 through 85. Psalms 81 through 83 are written by Asaph, while Psalms 84 through 85 are written by the sons of Korah. In Psalms 81, Asaph calls for Israel to sing and rejoice in the Lord. Asaph also uses the words of God to encourage Israel to listen and obey the Lord. In God's words, Asaph describes how God cared for Israel and rescued them. He has asked for them to listen and follow him, but they've turned away from him. But God says that if Israel would turn back to him, they will experience peace and provision. In Psalm 82, Asaph writes how God will judge gods for their wicked ways. The gods in this passage are a little obscure, but they could either be human judges or agents of darkness, like demons. While the identity of these gods are not clear, what is clear is that God reigns over them and prepares to judge them. Through the words of God again, Asaph describes how God looks upon people and is displeased that they care for the wicked, but not for the oppressed. God plans to punish these gods for their sin, and Asaph calls out for God to enact his justice. In Psalm 83, Asaph prays for God to save Israel from their enemies. He writes how all of these nations around Israel are conspiring against Israel to bring destruction upon them. Asaph asks for God to deliver Israel, and he lists out all of these nations that God defeated, essentially saying, defeat our present enemies just like you defeated our past enemies. Through their destruction, Asaph wants Israel's enemies to see how God is the God Most High. In Psalm 84, the sons of Korah describe the beauty of God's dwelling place, the temple. They write how God's dwelling place is a place of solace and comfort, and being with the presence of God makes people glad. They write that just being in God's temple one day is better than experiencing 1,000 days without it. In Psalm 85, the sons of Korah pray for God's salvation and forgiveness. They ask for God to revive them and show Israel his faithful love. Because of who God is, they have confidence that God's salvation is near to his people, and that God will restore Israel once again. Today's Psalms remind us how abundance and joy are found in God alone. Israel rebelled against God, which prevented them from experiencing his provision and protection. While God was still gracious, and he cared for them even in their sin, Israel missed out on experiencing the fullness of joy God's presence brings because of their rebellion. Psalm 85 also reminds us that being in God's presence delights, satisfies, and strengthens us. Being near to God and remaining in his presence brings lasting joy. And because of Christ's sacrifice on the cross, we get to experience the presence of God forever. Our reconciliation with God means that we have a relationship with him that will never be taken away. Not only this, but we have the Holy Spirit dwelling inside of us, making God's constant presence with us possible. But sometimes we can forget how precious God's presence is to us. Like Israel, we can choose not to cling to the Lord and pursue delights and comforts in people and things. We miss out on the fullness of joy and peace God provides when we dismiss his presence. Instead of going about our days without regarding God's presence, let's take the time to sit and be with the Lord. Let's stop and delight in the God who never leaves or forsakes us. Let us remember and rejoice over the sacrifice Jesus made so we can experience God's presence. Being in God's presence is greater than any experience the world can provide. Thanks so much for joining us today. Don't forget that on our website, we have the Story of Redemption study that accompanies this podcast, as well as Story of Redemption journals that have dedicated journaling space for every chapter of the Bible. And we even have a study called Seek on Psalms chapters 61 through 90 if you're interested in going deeper. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to talking with you tomorrow.